It's connecting. Okay, so I'd like to welcome everybody to today's webinar. My name is Peter Wolfhorst. I'm a member of NACDEP's Member Services Committee. I am an extension educator at Penn State Extension in Pike County in northeastern Pennsylvania. Today's topic is all about the Pivot Grant Database. Our presenter today is Jan Steen. He's the co-coordinator of the Kansas Pride program with Kansas State Extension. And he's going to share with us this Pivot Grant Database that can assist us in providing resources when we look for external sources of money for projects in our community with organizations, communities, Extension itself. So at this time, I'm going to mute my mic, stop my video, and turn it over to Jan to start the presentation.
All right, thank you, Peter. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the program that I work with. Is the Kansas Pride program works with communities of all sizes, from unincorporated communities to cities the size of Wichita, Kansas. And it's volunteer-based groups that are representing different sectors of the communities, and they identify needs in their community. And oftentimes those needs require funding to actually come to fruition. So building swimming pools, fixing sidewalks, holding a celebration of some sort. And they come to us and they ask if we know of any funding sources for that. And luckily we have the Pivot Grant database system, but it's also a way for extension agents, educators out in the field to make connections locally or work with partners in their community by finding funding that may not be for an extension program, but may be for a service or a project that some of their partners are working on. So let me tell you how to get to the website, because I found in giving these presentations, not everybody knows that they have access to the system. Some do, and they just want some tips on how to use it. Others don't necessarily know if they can access the system at all. It is a subscription database. And I'm going to put the address there. Do you guys see the website? Okay.
Yeah, it's in the chat. Thanks.
All right. And you see the website on my screen here. This is the Pivot Grants database. And when you go to that website address that I pasted in chat, this is what you're going to be presented with. And if you don't know if your institution has a subscription to this, there are a few ways that you can find out. First, you can use your university's login system. So just as it would normally log into your webmail or any other service at your university, you can drop down here, and there's Arizona State University. So I'll click on that, and that takes me to Arizona State's actual login page. So once I would log into my account there, then it would bring me back to the grants database system, and I would be logged in and be able to use the features. You will notice that that's a fairly small list. However, not every university is listed on there. So if you don't find your university on there, you can click on Create Account. And this is the case for Kansas State University. We don't use our secure login system for this. So to actually get in and see if you have the ability to make an account, you would click on Use Your Email Address and create a password. And that's going to ask you for the standard details, your email address, your name, your password that you would like to use. But now you have a bigger list of institutions. You can see there are libraries, hospitals, colleges, universities through here. And if your institution is listed here, you will likely be able to make an account here. The account is free because it's a subscription service that your university is already paying for. Now I know that Emporia State University in Kansas has access to this system, but they are not listed here. And the reason they're not listed here is they have another login type agreement with the Pivot Proquest people. So if you find in that step that your university is not listed there, you can contact your university IT or library system, or even your grants administrator at your university, and ask how to gain access to it. And if they don't have a subscription, there are other options as well, especially if you're based in an area that's maybe outside of your main campus. Wichita State, for example, has access to this in my area, and I can go to Wichita State's library system and use the grants database there. So once you have an account, or you know that you have an account, you can log in, or that you can make an account, you can log in. And I'm going to walk through some of the features here on the website so you can become familiar with those. You're presented first with, once you log in, with big letters and a big search box that you can search for funding. And you definitely can start searching for funding here. I'm going to show you some of the buttons up at the top, and another way to search for funding other than the obvious search engine here. The home button will take you back to the home page or any of the other sub pages if you find yourself really deep into the system. The funding button actually will take you to a funding keyword wheel. I'll show you that here in just a minute. Profiles, you can search profiles of people in your institution at your university who have access to the system, what papers they've published, what grants they've written, as well as some other things that might help you collaborate with them or find somebody to collaborate with if you're looking to write a grant. The conferences button allows you to search for conferences or journals that are accepting requests for presentations or papers. Or if you don't want to present at a conference, but you're looking at conferences based on a certain keyword that maybe you would like to attend, you can search for conferences with that button. And then the awarded grants button is the final button over here on the top. And that will give you a search engine to search for grants that have been awarded by different entities like the National Institutes for Health, USDA, the Walmart Foundation, or you can search for grants by keyword and find out who has written those grants. So maybe you can ask them some questions if you're writing a grant for yourself or a project that you're working on. Down here at the bottom, underneath the search box, you have tracked opportunities. This is an opportunity for you when you do a search to track grants that maybe are not active right now, but will go active later. It gives you a chance to get an email when that grant goes active. Saved searches, if you're doing a search for a very specific type of grant and you're doing a lot of refining in that search and you don't want to have to do that on a regular basis, you can save those searches. And then the advisor is the system itself. Based on your profile and keywords that it knows about you, will try to send you grant opportunities that you might qualify for. And then if your university has a grant specialist, then the curated opportunities here will be listed as something that your grant specialist will dump in there for people to see. Any questions about the site and navigation so far? I'll go into each one of these things in a little more depth as we go on. You can unmute or you can type it into chat if you have any questions as I'm going on here. I like the funding wheel because sometimes I'm looking for a grant and I have a very specific terminology for it and nothing's coming up. I need to get a little more general. And the funding wheel, if you click on the funding button here, it brings up a nice colorful wheel of the different types of funds that are available. It tells you right now that there are over $100 billion listed on this database for people to apply for. And the color wheel is broken down into keywords or subjects. So if you hover your mouse over, you can see there's an education category, there's a business management and commerce category. This orange one down here is a sociology, social sciences category. And then we have subcategories: social services, planning or policy studies, cultural or population studies. There's even a community development or revitalization. So if I click there, I'm going to be presented with 422 results that are grants that are specifically for community development or revitalization. And that's a lot of grants. I'm not going to click through all of those to find out if I qualify for them or not. But that's an option for you to do, and then you can refine your search later, which I'll show you how to do here in just a second. You also have the option of searching with the funding search bar. And this is just like a search engine. If you typed in community development, you're gonna get about 10,000 results. These results are all of the grants that have the word community or development in them. But if you search using quotation marks, that's gonna bring back the 450 results of community development. So you can search by phrase as long as you use those quotation marks. Get a little bit more specific there. My example today is a lot of our communities are looking to make walking trails, bike trails, hiking trails. So that is a grant that I end up searching for quite often. So I'm going to search for trails, and I'm presented with 13 results. And these results show the title of the grant. It's clickable. If I click on it, it's going to take me to the grant itself with some more details. I also see the entity that is funding this grant. This one happens to be the Oregon Community Foundation. This one is a federal grant. The National Park Service is the one right below it, and so on. In the next column, you have the deadline for the grant. This one happens to be August 31st of 2022, and it's anticipated. It's listed as anticipated because it's been offered in the past, pretty much on this same schedule. And also it's anticipated because the grant window is not currently open. You can see the one below it, the National Park Service, is continuous. This grant window is always open. You can always apply for this grant. And the application is confirmed because the grant application window is currently active right now. You can also see the amount available. This Oregon Historic Trails Fund, the amount available for this grant is $40,000. And as you scroll down through, you can see here's one for $400,000 in Canadian dollars. There's one for $10,000, $20,000. You also see some that say see record. If it says see record, that means that maybe they don't have an upper limit of the amount of money that they're willing to give out during that grant period, and they want you to apply for it, and they will just review it on its merit to see if it's something that they want to fund in full or in part. But also, for this example, the National Park Service one is not a dollar amount at all. The National Park Service is offering up their trained professionals who are involved in park design, park management, wildlife management, to work with communities to help them design and build a park. And you're actually getting that professional service, and that could convert into a monetary value. That's why it's listed as a grant. So again, if I click on the Oregon Historic Trails Fund, which I did here, you're going to see some additional details. You will have a clickable link that will take you to the grant itself. More information there, contact information, some of the things that you have to be project-wise or entity-wise that you have to be eligible for to apply for the grant. The funder name is now clickable. It wasn't clickable on the previous page, but if you click on that now, that is going to show you all of the grants that are offered by that foundation or by that federal agency or state agency. So I can see here that the Oregon Community Foundation offers 5 grants in total. So maybe the grant I found in this search engine wasn't quite what I'm looking for, but they might have another grant that I would be able to click on and find more information about. The funder is a private foundation. The country is the United States. There are a lot of funders in this database that are not in the United States, but they will fund projects that are based in the United States. The amount of this funding is $40,000, and they say here, they spell this out, there's $40,000 available in total. This could go to one grant, or it could go to multiple grants split up between those people or entities. The applicant type for this specific grant must be a government or public sector entity or a nonprofit entity. You will also see listed on here academic institution. You will see government broken down into different levels like federal, state, or local. You will also see grants available for individuals, mid-career individuals, early career individuals, and even undergrad students, graduate students, postdoctoral students, if they're working on studying in a certain area. So this is a way also to find scholarships. If you have teenagers like me who are in college, this could be fairly useful for you as well. Activity location, institution location. This basically says if you're applying for this grant, you need to be in the United States and you need to be a citizen of the United States. And the activity location for this specific grant is Oregon. I'm in Kansas, so I'm not interested in this grant because I have to be working on a project in Oregon. I'll show you how to refine that search a little bit later so you would not see Oregon grants when you're doing a search for your state specifically. You get an abstract of the grant, you get the eligibility requirements and some additional keywords that you can click on, and those will take you to other grants listed under that keyword area. And then the deadline. The deadline grant opens July 1st. Applications are due by August 31st, and it is anticipated right now. Any questions about what you see on the grant results page? once you click on a grant and find some of that information. I'll go over some of this on the right side a little bit later when we go into tracking and sharing, in case you noticed that. Okay. Well, I don't want 13 grants to search through when some of them are going to be for New Mexico or Oregon. So I'm going to go and refine my search. I can do that two ways. You can refine a little bit on the left side. You can look at grants that are only confirmed. You don't have to worry about anticipated grants. If I click on confirmed grants, it's going to list 4 grants that are available right now. If I click on grants that are only available to nonprofits or academic institutions, I will get that list of grants that are only available for those types of institutions. So you can filter a little bit. I like to go to the refine search link up at the top, and you can add additional keywords. You can search by deadlines. My main search when I go to the refine search is activity location. And I'm going to type in my state and I'm going to click on it. And if you were successful, your state is going to show up over here on the right-hand side. And then if you click search, now all 6 of these grants are available to me in Kansas. They're either specific to Kansas itself only, or they are specific to the United States as a whole, but not limited by what state. So the sunflower grants is an example. This one is for Kansas only. You can see activity location there, Kansas only. And the community grants, People for Bikes, this one is going to be listed for United States as the activity location. And since Kansas is in the United States, it's my lucky day on that one.
It looks like you've got to be a bit, even at that, a bit, you might have sorted them through, like the Southwest Border Resource Protection Program comes up, but that really, I mean, while it technically says the United States, Kansas is not on the Southwest border.
Right.
Border of Mexico. So sometimes, even if it's in that list, it may not actually apply.
Right. There are instances where some of those things come up and they don't apply. There's one that comes up for me all the time when I do a certain search that is a Keep Britain Tidy grant, a green grant for the United Kingdom, and they just have it in the system improperly. So yes, that does happen, Michael, from time to time. But the good news is it doesn't happen super often. So it is reducing the amount of grants that I have to sift through there. Now this one at the bottom, the Copernicus Masters one, 10,000 euros. This one will probably be an international grant, so it's unrestricted. Anybody can apply for this. It's actually a grant for individuals or academic institutions or even commercial or private entities. This is a cash prize for a specific invitation related to data utilization. So you don't have to be a university to apply. You don't have to be a nonprofit. You could be an individual, but you can be anywhere on the planet and apply for that. So now I'm going to show you a little bit on how to save your search, because I don't want to go through here every week and search for trails and then click on refine search and then type in Kansas and then click on search again and come up with these 6 results. I want this to happen for me all the time. So if I click on save search at this point, I'm going to save trails and activity location of Kansas without having to type it in again. So I'm going to type in Trails Kansas as the name of this saved search. And it's going to ask me if I would like to receive a weekly email containing new or updated opportunities from this saved search. Yes, of course I do. Now every Sunday, I am going to receive an email that looks something like this. And every Sunday, the system sweeps through all of its known grants and it looks at the grants that you knew about prior to that Sunday. And it looks at all of the grants that are brand new since you last looked, and it's going to give you a list. So I have a saved search for academic funding. I have a saved search for community development in Kansas, and there are 21 new results for this one. There are, I think, about 600 grants total in community development in Kansas, but since the last time I actually looked at them, I have 21 new results. So this saves me a lot of searching and having to sort through things, big lists to find out grants that I really didn't know I had access to, and try to sort through them like a needle in a haystack. And I'll show you here in just a minute also on the saved searches how you can navigate through them at any day of the week. You don't have to wait until Sunday. Okay, so I'm going to go to, let's go to the community grants for People for Bikes. It says this grant is anticipated, and I would like to get an email notification when this grant goes active. So I don't have to keep checking back every week to find out if the grant's active, the window's open or not. I can click on track, and it is going to automatically put a red flag next to this grant. And now, anytime there is a status change to this grant in my tracked opportunities, it is going to show up as a change. And I'm also going to get an email immediately when that happens. So if the People for Bikes people make that grant go active today, that community grant, I'm going to get an email that says, this grant is active. You might want to go take a look at it to see if it's something you want to apply for. Pretty useful. Now, I also, underneath tracking, I have an opportunity to share this grant. Now, you can share with people in your own institution. I'm going to use Jamie as an example because I've shared grants with her before. You can type in a person's name. If they're in the system, it will come up with their name. You can click on that. You can type a little message, and they are going to get a notification that you shared a grant with them. You can also share grants with people who are not part of the Pivot system or not part of your university. So if there's a community foundation in your town, or if there is a nonprofit food bank in your town, and you run across a grant that might be of interest to them, you click the share button, you type in that person's email address, and they're going to have access to this page that you send them for 2 weeks. They're not going to be able to go in and search for other grants with the system. They're not going to be able to do any tracking or anything like that, but they're going to be able to click on the grant website. They're going to be able to see the abstract, the amount of the funding, some of the other details about the grant, and then they can go and actually click on the grant details and bookmark those on their local computer. So that's a good way to look out for some of your partners in your community. Just if you run across some funding, send that to them. You can also have people come into your office if that's something that you're allowed to do yet with the pandemic. You have people come into your office and make an appointment and come in and say, you know what, we've got a housing issue in town. We really would like to look at some grants that might deal with housing issues. And you can sit down with them and do a search. Maybe have a second monitor so they can see some of the things that you're seeing as well. And as you're finding those grants, you hit share, and then you email them those grants, and then they can go back to their office and look through those as well. You can always get to the grants that you've shared with other people by going back to the home button or the home screen and clicking on shared. And if somebody sends you grants, you can go to received and see those grants that they've sent to you there. All right, I'm going to go back to the home screen now, and I'm going to show you what Advisor is. I do use Advisor every now and then, but Advisor is the Pivot software going through your profile and looking at keywords in your profile to say, I think you might qualify for some of these grants. A lot of times you don't, because it's just based on keywords that they find in your profile. It might be grants that are not for Kansas at all. It might be grants that are not for academic institutions at all, but at least it's kind of trying, and you might find some things there that are of interest to you, or at least some keywords later that you can go and click on. Curated is, again, if you have somebody that's a grants administrator, grant specialist at your university, and some of the professors or departments go to that person and say, look, we really need some grants for archaeology or instrumentation or food security. Can you please do a search, and then whatever you find in that search, dump it into a curated list for us. Here at Kansas State University, some of the professors have asked our grants administrator to find grants related to archaeology so they can build out their archaeology program. Others have asked for instrumentation on evaluating different science processes. So we could click on that and you would see the list of the grants available there. if you have a good knowledge of the Pivot system, you don't really need to engage with your grants administrator. Okay. Any questions so far on searching or using any of these other features like sharing or tracking or saving your searches?
Well, I do have a question, Jan. Like, say I see Penn State's not a subscription provider. So is there a different cost to this software, this system, based on an academic institution, individual, and do you know what the cost is, or maybe you don't know? But
I don't know what the cost is because
okay. So I guess it's something that, like, some of us, if our institution is not a subscriber, we might want to encourage them to do that.
Right. So if you don't see yourself you don't see your institution on the list, you may not be a subscriber. But I will say, just searching for Penn State in the system, we have several people that are coming up at different colleges of Penn State, different campuses of Penn State. So it may be like Emporia State here in Kansas, where they have a different method of logging in, like through an intranet, or maybe there's just one certain account that you have to go to a certain building and access it from.
Okay, yeah, because I see those are affiliated with colleges that are outside the College of Ag that extensions with. So, okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, no problem. And if again, there's no subscription, even if you ask there, tell them there's $100 billion available in funding out there. It might be worth it for them, at least on a departmental level, to subscribe to this, for sure. Now, since I'm in the profile section, I'm going to show you what the profiles are all about. And I'm going to show you an example of a profile that's never been filled out. And then I'm going to show you an example of profiles that have been filled out by users and why it's important to fill out your profile in the Pivot system. So we're part of the College of Agriculture here at Extension. I'm going to view the Extension profiles. And the first one I'm going to look at is David Key. Very understanding CACDEP and NACDEP member. He'll be okay with me demonstrating his profile, I think. David Key is a district director. He has just made a basic account. He's not added any additional information to his profile, but you can see he is part of K-State Research and Extension, the College of Agriculture, and Kansas State University. And the advisor system, as part of Pivot, says, you know what, we know based on these keywords, just these keywords alone, that David has access to about 500 plus grants in the system. We're pretty sure that these would apply to him. You've got David's contact information and where his institution is based right here. Now I'm going to show you my profile, and then I'm going to show you Erin Yellen's profile here, so you can see a difference between them. I'm also part of the College of Agriculture and K-State Research and Extension. My contact information is there, but you can see that I've filled out additional details on my profile. I've put in there what degrees I have. I've added keywords to the different types of programming that I do or that I'm interested in, and my associations, NACDEP, ESP, Epsilon Sigma Phi, Phi Kappa Phi. And I've also added, and I need to add more of these, but I've added one of the grants that I was successful in writing for. And so the Proquest system not only takes these keywords off of the grants and the overview of what I've added on there. To do this search, now I have funding opportunities not just based on my department, but also based on my keywords, my degrees, and the grants that I've written that I can click on and find opportunities there. But when people are searching for collaborators, maybe they're writing for a grant and need somebody who's experienced in outreach programs or volunteers, or has written for a grant already from the Kansas Health Foundation, my profile is going to come up for them. So they're going to maybe reach out to me and say, I've got this opportunity. We'll be happy to share some grant dollars with you. Would you be willing to work with us? That could be a way to bring in some money that you weren't even thinking about. But it's also a way to find others. So I'm going to show you Erin's page. And Erin is also part of Extension, but she's part of the College of Health and Human Sciences instead of Agriculture. And I want to show you hers because she also has publications listed. So you can also list what publications that you have had published, and those keywords from those publications are now going to come up when people do a search for other profiles that may be experienced in those areas. And you can see she has a different number of different types of grants available. Okay, I searched for Penn State earlier. I'm going to search for food security. I'm going to utilize the quote marks so I don't get food and security both. I just get food security. And I'm going to search for people who have food security in their profiles who might be versed in that. You can see I have 66 results in my own university. And this is a way for me to reach out to these people in my university to collaborate on different projects or grants. And I can filter it down even more. What about food security related to business? What about food security related to social sciences or natural science? I can really drill down here and be very specific. But I can also click on the outside institutions, and I have 8,489 people in other institutions around the world who are experienced with writing about or writing grants for or working with food security issues. And then again, I can still drill down here and say, I'm only interested in working with the agriculture aspect of this, or I'm interested in working with the business aspect of this, and maybe the finance or the economics. And I can click on that, and that will again drill down even deeper. And then I can find more people to click on and see how they're related to this specific topic, and maybe reach out to them. They've got their contact information, their websites, their publications, and so forth. So I think you can see there how it's beneficial. You can definitely search and do grant searches and sharing grant information without filling out your profile, but you could be leaving some money on the off the table here to where you couldn't access it if people are looking for collaborators. And it's also a great way to find others to work on projects with. Okay, any questions about that? All right, I'm going to go into the conferences button next. I'm going to use community development one more time, but they list the conferences and publications by subject. So you can scroll through here manually and you can see what's available. It shows the number of conferences or publications that are out there for that specific topic. Again, I'm going to do community development up here in quotes, just as an example. And I have 11 results. Now, it's going to tell me on the left, I can still refine my search at the top. I can still refine my search at the left. This is just like searching for grants and funding opportunities. There are 5 of these conferences or publications that the deadline is already passed. So I don't have a chance of submitting a paper or submitting a proposal for a presentation to these 5, but I can still look at these conferences or publications to find out if it's something I might want to attend myself or something I might want to seek out an issue and possibly read that. Deadlines that are 60 days or more out, 30 days or more out, 30 to 60 days. And you can see through some of these results. I'm just going to click on this one. For example, the event date is April 12th, 2022, the 50th annual conference on the Urban Affairs Association. And their abstract deadline is December 1st. So if this is a conference I'd like to present at, I might want to get my abstract details ready. And this is going to show me how to submit on this page. It's going to give me keywords just like the grants. It's going to give me deadline dates of when the abstracts are due, when the registration deadline is, the start of the event, the end of the event, and then kind of a summary of what the conference is about and what the specification is for that abstract. You're going to have a website for that specific conference. It's also going to be listed up here. It's going to tell me I have 21 days left to submit for this specific conference. And then I can click on the conference page and find out more details and contact information for the people running the conference. So that's nice. And you can also search for professional development funding in the grant side of things and the funding side of things. So if you find a nice tropical conference in the middle of the Northern Hemisphere's winter that happens to be in Australia, you can search for professional development funds as well as how to register for the conference or present at that conference. And finally, we have on this search engine, we have awarded grants. Now you saw on my grants page, or on my profile page, I had a tab for grants. I listed the grants that I had written for there, at least one of them. And if I search for that specific grant, that is going to come up in this search engine. You can search for grants by funders. So if you're writing for a grant from, say, the National Institutes of Health, it is going to come up with all of the grants that have been awarded by the National Institutes of Health by fiscal year. So let's do 2021. We'll click on the 6,491 grants won by people from the National Institutes of Health. And we're going to see what those grants were for and who won those grants, who was awarded those grants, and where the grant was from, what institution they were with, and how many awards they actually won. So some of these are 5 awards, 4 awards. So that means this grant might have been a multi-year grant that they could have applied for at multiple times. Here's one 2017 through 2021. You can click on that. You can see how much money they were awarded, $3.1 million for that specific grant. You can click on that and it will give you an abstract of the grant and also of the project that they won the funding for. This is also a good way if you are applying for a grant from a specific entity and a specific grant, if you want to search for that grant and find people who have won it in the past, to reach out to them, get in touch with them, and find out maybe some ideas, some details on what made their grant successful. Okay, whoops. And that's the system on searching for funding, profiles, conferences, publications, and awards, and how to do that and how to use some of the tools on the website. Anybody have any questions about that or how you might use it in your own situation there?
Yeah, feel free if you want to, you're able to ask a question and turn your mic on if you have any.
You can even do a search example here so you can see what would come up and then go through it if you have any questions about the results.
So if anybody has any, they're looking for some funding for some opportunities, some topics. This is opportunity. Jan will help you.
And I just put my email address in there. So if you go back and have any questions later, feel free to email me. I'll be happy to see what I can find out for you on my end. But anyway, it's not too complicated of a system once you get in there. It's just really a lot like a search engine with some additional tools. But I really like that it's broken down in different ways for you to find other people. It's not just finding funding, it's finding other people who have successfully found funding or are seeking funding just like you are, and maybe give you an opportunity for collaborating.
Jan, Linda, one of my Penn State Extension collaborators in community development, put in, how about nonprofit organizational development training?
Okay, so if you're wanting to search for that, there are a couple of things that you might want to do. You could search for that entire phrase. You could search for and nonprofit's a little bit tricky on here because you can search for nonprofit like this, or you can search for nonprofit with the hyphen in there.
So you're saying maybe there's different words in there and you're going to get a lot of results, or?
Yeah, so yeah, nothing specific to that phrase, but you could do training and then drill down from there, maybe organizational training, or if you do organizational training, of course, well, there's 7,075 results at that point. And then you said you're at Penn State, so you could do Pennsylvania and search for Pennsylvania. That's going to bring you up with 28 results. So something that's much more manageable, right? You're going to get the results with all the United States availability and just Pennsylvania specifically. And again, this also works for professional development for yourself. If you're looking for funds to go to NACDEP this year in Indianapolis, there are some organizations here that will pay for you to get professional development in your field, even travel costs. So that's something that you can look at as well.
So this is very extensive.
Mm-hmm.
Conferences, professional development, grants,
scholarships,
collaborating with other individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Find out. Oh. Wow. I know we're gonna some of us have a conversation and find out who those individuals and how they got access to at least what you showed us earlier with Penn State. But like I said, I didn't see anybody there from the College of Ag or anybody that the name rings a bell with me. So maybe it's an opportunity to talk to our leadership about trying to get access to this somehow, get a subscription. Another cohort of mine, John Track, said funds for a small organization to hire an executive director and some program staff for community development.
Okay. Let's go back up here. Funds for small organization. Program staff for community development. So one thing you could do is you could definitely go back here to the community development or revitalization and do a broad search there. And you could do that broad search and then start adding keywords into it. If you refine the search, there it already knew. I was going to go to the keyword section. So you type in staff, you could type in support staff. You could type in employees. I wouldn't limit it to just that though, because a lot of programs you have are going to require an employee, and they're not going to spell that out specifically in the grant itself. So you want to be kind of general in some of those. Let's see. Let's see, community development, staff. So there's 34 results if we type in staff. But again, I would say if you can justify in your program that, you know, part of that program is actually hiring somebody, they're not going to necessarily spell that out. They may spell it out in the requirements on the actual website, the eligibility requirements that you cannot use this to hire staff, or that you can use this to hire staff. They may not list that on the actual pivot page itself.
Any other questions? I think it's a great resource, and I appreciate you sharing it with us, Jan, because I wasn't aware of it. So I don't know if others on today's conversation are aware of it, but I think for us, several of us here from Penn State, I think we're going to look into this. I would hope to.
I have this and really was never told how to use it. We had another database previously. It just made a default profile and started sending me information, which most of which was no good. But you know, just while on the webinar here, I've already made an additional saved search to help guide potential funding sources to me. I mean, that's a practical get just from this session for somebody who's been on this for a couple of years.
Well, there you go. And one thing I thought of when I clicked on this link, it came up with page not found. This is a grant result from the actual database. It pointed to a website, and it turned out that the website it pointed to wasn't really active. Most of these websites are going to have contact pages. They're going to have an actual link to their real grants. But so click around on there. Don't be shy on reaching out to some of these people that are listed. It's their job to administer this grant. And if you have questions, if the grant's going to be offered again, or maybe want to see if your project might fit into their grant guidelines, reach out to them and find out what they have to say about that. But this one, the Sunflower grants, this is one of the ones that says it doesn't have a deadline. It doesn't have anticipated. It doesn't have confirmed. because the Sunflower Foundation traditionally offered grants. It traditionally offered this grant, the Sunflower Grant specifically. And when COVID hit, they did a 180 and their funding went out to support COVID relief. So they've been doing that for a couple of years now. If you click on that link, that grant isn't going to be listed, but some other grants are. And they have a link here to sign up for email alerts for when other grants go active or grants that they've offered in the past come back again. So definitely click on the link, even if it says anticipated. If it's anticipated and it's the deadline's a year out, click there and sign up for the page. There might be other grant opportunities available that come up that in the meantime, while you're waiting for that grant to go active.
Well, thank you, Jan. Appreciate
You're welcome.
taking the time out and sharing this with us. I know myself and John and Linda, I know I learned a lot, and even Michael, who was familiar with the system, learned a lot. So we appreciate everybody being here today. I'm going to stop the recording.